Welcome to part 3, pitfalls and tips and tricks. In this section, I'm going to try to help parents figure out what to do when they get frustrated and maybe how to avoid some of those frustrations. So let's get it started with pitfalls. The first thing that I see people do is what I like to call the Nancy Reagan. And what happens in the Nancy Reagan is, well, I think we all know what Nancy Reagan used to say back in the 80s about drugs. Just say no. Is when parents just say no. Now, did that just say no policy work in the 1980s and drugs? Certainly not. Does it work today? I don't think so. Will it ever work? I put my money on no. Why doesn't just say no work? Because every man, woman, and child understands that just say no is a shortcut. It's not a justification. And when you're arguing with someone who's just using shortcuts, you can undermine them. And you can eventually get your way. So when we just say no to our children, we are asking for a battle. Again, the best way to do it is through justification. Again, because it's a shortcut, just say no is easy, but not effective. And at some point, you're going to do it. And that's okay. But if you use it too much and you use it as a crutch, you're going to completely lose control of teaching your children about money. Because they're not going to take you seriously. Now, what's the second pitfall? Monkey see, monkey do. Your children observe you all the time, every day, and they know what you do, and they keep track, subconsciously or consciously. So when you go to Macy's or Nordstrom, wherever you shop before school, and you say to your child, we're going to pick out 5 new outfits for the beginning of school, growing a little bit, and then we're going to go down to the shoe department, we're going to pick out some shoes for you. And you do all that, you hold yourself to your word. Again, only 5 different outfits plus a pair of shoes. But then you go ahead while your children are getting shoes and you get 8 pairs of shoes for $1,000. Your children see that. And they know that that's an inherently hypocritical thing to do. And if you don't follow your rules, why should they? Now, all is not lost. There are legitimate reasons to buy a lot of shoes. Again, you're going to want to share those reasons with your children. Whether it's, well, mom or daddy, we only get shoes, every other year or every couple of years, and so our shoes are fading fast, and so we need more. Or maybe you're in a sales position where having the newest, greatest shoe is really important. And you can explain to your child that for work, for production of income, it's actually important for you to have these new shoes. Again, any actual justification. Now, they may say to you, well, it's important for my friends to see me in new shoes. Again, not an income-producing activity, which you can, of course, point out. But again, be aware your children observe you and your spending all the time. So, what's our next pitfall? Being afraid of failure. You are not perfect. You will get this process wrong a bunch of times. As long as you're learning from your mistakes, and as long as you keep trying, you can still be successful. And what's more, your children, they're going to make mistakes too. A lot of them. I know that when my oldest daughter gets her money, and she goes to Target for the first time, we have that conversation about, well, you can't afford this because you don't have enough money. She's going to say, well, Daddy, there's another doll down there called Snarby. And Snarby is the knockoff version of Barbie, and it costs $2, and I can buy it. And I'll say, okay, honey, buy the Snarby. Now, what do I know about that doll? I know that in 2 weeks, all of its hair is going to fall out, and it's not going to have any legs. But Natalie doesn't know that. So that in a couple weeks when she comes to me with a legless, hairless doll, she's going to say, Daddy, Daddy, my dolly. And I'll say, well, what happened? And she'll say, well, the dolly's bad. And I'll say, well, the dolly was low quality. For your Barbies, the real ones, do they last longer? Yes, she'll answer. And I'll say, well, again, we have to make decisions about quality. And that sometimes we need to wait so that we can get a better quality item and not get the doll immediately. I'm not going to say, well, of course it did. It's a stupid knockoff version of Barbie. I could have told you it was going to happen. Again, we're going to have to be compassionate and we have to be understanding, because for sure our children are going to fail. And that's okay. So, what about tips and tricks? Tip number 1. Cash is king. Always has been, always will be. As Gen Yers, if you're like me, it's very tempting to get your child a bank account and get them a card, an ATM card, a debit card. The problem is that little children, up until well into 10 or 12, think very concretely. And it's very difficult for them to understand that there's money in a different place that they access through this card. It doesn't work well. Furthermore, if your child's young, it's going to develop numerical skills. When they have to start counting the quarters and the nickels and the dimes and the dollars. Again, helping them work on concepts at school. And then, of course, as concepts get more complex, when they get into first and second grade, decimals and fractions, again, that all relates back to money as well. And you're going to help them out with that. And it's going to be a really great learning experience for both of you. But remember, try to keep it all in cash. The next part is somewhat related. We want our kids to carry the cash that they have. They're spending money. No need to bring around the charitable money or the saving or the investment. But again, the money they intend to spend that day or possibly spend that day should be kept with them. Now, they can carry it if they want to. They may ask you to carry it. Now, if they carry their own money and they lose it, that's their problem. That's a lesson that they need to learn, that they need to be more secure with their money or give it to an adult. Now, obviously, if you as a parent lose it, you have to replace it to show them that you have to take responsibility for your actions. But again, having that money on hand is going to save a lot of heartache. So that when you go to Target and you go to buy the Barbie and they don't have their money, you say, well, I think you have $6, but I don't know. And you buy it and you go home to learn they don't have enough. Again, you're in a tough spot. Now you have to try to run a debit balance for them. Again, that's a complex kind of thought for them as well. So again, keep the cash on hand if you can. Again, it'll be great because they get to hand the money to the person behind the register and again, have that sense of pride. So multiple reasons behind that. Thirdly, keep a consistent payday. Your company has to pay you on a particular day, every month or every couple weeks, whatever it might be. There's a schedule. Show your children that their money is just as important to you as it is to them, that it's meant to be respected, and that we have to respect people and their monies and how they interact with them. And that goes a long way to telling your child how important you think the concept is. And finally, I would encourage you to tell stories. We all have money stories. We all have money memories from when we were little kids and for the first time we bought a pack of baseball cards or a doll or whatever it might be. We all have failures that we had as children. You can tell about those too. I fully intend to tell my kids about the first time I learned about sales tax. When I was about 8 years old, my mother said, you know, Aaron, your baseball cards, because I'm an avid collector, are all over the floor. You're stepping on them and you're ruining them. You need to organize them and put them away. And I thought, you know, that's actually a really good idea. So I had about $30 at the time, and so I went to Toys R Us with my dad, and I said, you know, I'm going to get binders and put those clear plastic sheets in them so that I can organize my baseball cards and look at them. Best of both worlds. So I go to Toys R Us, we get to the aisle, and I pick out the binders, I pick out the sheets, and I'm going through them. I get exactly $30 worth of stuff. And my dad and I go up to the counter, and we check out, and I'm short. And I'm short the amount of the sales tax because I didn't even know about it. Your kids don't know about it either. But I soon found out. Luckily, my dad spotted the money to me. I think he felt guilty because he'd let me be short. But eventually, we got back to the car and we had a talk about, well, what happens if you get to a register and you're short money? It didn't even occur to me that I could put something back. But again, he helped me learn that. Now, I don't recommend damaging your child on a transaction, but again, there are lessons to be learned, and you can share them with your kids. Let them know that you're human too, and they won't feel so bad about their mistakes. I'd rather have my child make a mistake now, and the mistake will be relatively small, than have them make a mistake much later on in life, where it could be potentially very big. So that's all I have about tips and tricks. I hope you enjoyed this 3-part series. Again, if you have any questions, please visit my website, www.werbarubin.com. And again, learn more about teaching kids about money and about investing in money in general. Thanks so much.